If you're interested in uncovering one of the greatest mysteries in history, this is the place to be. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button right now. After you've subscribed, make sure to like and share the videos to help spread this groundbreaking information.
Hello. Yes, it's me. I'm here to talk about the Sphinx. I got in a lot of trouble. I'm wearing my spook outfit because I'm very cold in this undisclosed location. It's very windy and I do have heat, but I wear this all the time when I'm alone, so you might as well get to know me. Yeah, I usually carry a sickle when I go outside. Not true, but the Twitter account that I have, which is STIGEMUP at Stigamup, this tweet right here, I showed a picture from the 1800s and I said, Graham Hancock, please stop saying the Sphinx was recarved. Here's where some people misunderstood my tweet. And in this picture, you can kind of see it here too. Papers show, that's the studies, that there are no fossils in that stuff. I know where this came from. It's a paper. The guy's got a lot of great stuff. I've seen this for years now. The drawing on the left there came from Mark Edward Lehner. He sketched hundreds and hundreds of pictures for this, I guess it's his dissertation. He did a great service with all his pictures. And what you can see here is that this picture is aligned with this other information. Now, I do see this name here, CFLK Quarry, right there. And I thought maybe he was the one that did the paper, but I researched it and couldn't find it. So what we see here is the alignment from the head going down to the bottom where you see the dream stela or stele. And you can see the recorded fossils in all the different parts. So we've got all these different types of fossils up here, and numerites is the number one thing that I talk about, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. Look, oysters and other fossils inside there. So we've got different textures as well. So there's also different layers or beds. In the head, you don't have any fossils recorded whatsoever. And the reason why is because it's casted cement, ancient at first. Let's take a look at the photograph that got me in so much trouble. I had his name handy and I forgot it, but then later on the Keystone View Company put it out. Now, the guy that took the picture had it copyrighted in 1901, but he took pictures and he was mainly active from 1890 to 1900. And this is a stereo view or a stereo pic or whatever they call them. They're very popular because they're kind of like the Viewmaster, right? A Viewmaster showed three-dimensional images because this image and this image were taken about 6 inches apart or whatever, or maybe 3 inches, to make it look like it's your regular eye, as you know. Okay, now look what you're seeing here. Now you're seeing the original limestone here. Now I do want to talk about what I mentioned, the shoulders earlier. That's later, but we do see here that limestone goes up and you can see the striation in the neck. Definitely part of this, but you see the limestone here, and it's not in color. Unfortunately, we can assume that it's a nice beige color because we know what the modern day Sphinx looks like. I think that you can see a major difference. Take a look at the way the sun reflected off the Sphinx on that day, that morning, like probably every morning. You really have a lighter color down here. And you can see that it's a little bit different. Now, there's some revelations about this. I'm not going to make claims, but what do we see here? We see what looks like limestone going up into it. But I actually was curious if this line, and when you look at it before they did all these modern day changes to it, you see a clear separation here as well. Well, why is that important? Well, first let's finish talking about this. So I do believe what you're seeing here is you're seeing cement on the top of it, ancient cement. I say that because of these striations. That's not something that happens with limestone. Those aren't different layers of beds or members. This is just cement, and they probably built up and did several layers of cement casting there. I think you can see the limestone coming through up above. Let me close that, go to this one here. Is that not the limestone peeking through? Now, when you wonder, take a look at the thickness of this black cement layer. It's not that thick. That's a big statue, so it's probably more than just an inch. That's probably like 4 inches thick. And as you go up, you can see the deterioration in the 1800s. Well, I've got a surprise. I didn't show this on the Twitter, but I found it in a paper. This is from another study. I think it's from that same study I showed you. And you see a photo here taken in 1925. Well, there sure are a lot more pieces of that concrete that have peeled off, aren't there? And you can even see a big chunk here that really wasn't visible. So you can see that, yeah, maybe it was recarved, but the limestone is underneath, maybe recarved and put down into a shape that could be used for the layers of cement that were planned to be put on top of them. It says the back of the Sphinx head taken September 25th before a person named Barres filled in the recesses and the neck with ceramic bricks, limestone, and cement. Okay, I don't know about the limestone, but you see all these things that were filled in. There's a lot of pictures. Let me just go through these old photos. This is the first, or maybe the oldest known color photo of the Sphinx. When was the first color photo taken and developed? Okay, that says 1890s, because they still haven't added the bricks. I do see a line here from shoulder to shoulder. So the question is that separate piece, this neck, and whatever's underneath this cement cast, is that a separate? And take a look. You can see these striations that occurred naturally in the limestone. In this, you can see we've got mudstone, we've got waxstone, we've got packstone, and we've got boundstone. I assume that one of those names labels this big old chunk that's going across the neck. Also, I do believe that that was purposely left there to create a step so you can get up there. People are standing up there in photos. So I do feel that that was carved a long time ago. I think that this was the original stone. In fact, it may have been put there first. What you can see here, though, is you can see that the head, definitely the yellow limestone goes up underneath this casting of cement. Even though it's black and white, you can see a definite, distinct difference. Here's a great picture that was taken on this Gustav Boehm's magazine, Voyage Around the World magazine. I don't know if that's him. This is obviously modern day. And you can see the brickwork that's put in there. You can still see the limestone here, but what about now? That's the question. This is 80s, I believe. The little nub in the chest has always suggested to me that there was once a larger protrusion in that, above that region. Well, the reason why I don't believe that the Sphinx was Anubis is because of the vernal equinox. These ancient monuments were created to celebrate the vernal equinox, and I believe that the Sphinx is probably the first one or the oldest one that we all know of. That was taken in the 1890s, or maybe 1899, or maybe 1900. Probably a little older than that. I believe that you can see the separate cement and limestone. Here's a really great picture, even though it's pixelated at this point. This one shows it's still about 1925, I think, or 1930 or whatever, before World War II. But you can still see the repairs that they did to it. They covered that whole area up, and they filled in those areas up here with modern day cement. So even like this little cut up here, this is a really old picture. They filled all those little nooks and crannies in with cement. Look at the line right there. I want to talk about that right there. There are 3 members. You see that crack going through there? All those things have been repaired. And there was a hole in the back that also got repaired. This is a different publishing company. Yeah, I think that's a great shot. And you can see how this line kind of just matches up barely with the front. I think that line and this line are the same, but because this is a little closer. But you can still see a little limestone sticking through right there at that back crack. This is a great one, and you can see really, the face really clear here, even though it's pixelated a little bit. You still see this big, huge damaged part here. I wonder how that happened. And then the neck and that grain. This is another good one. And this was the cover of The Guardian, and it was showing this picture, and I thought that was pretty nice. It kind of looks like it's part of the same stone up here, but there's a big difference. And you could argue there's paint on top of this or something, but we'll look at that again. The big trouble I got in with Twitter is that I was challenging the challengers. I had a guy tell me, "You didn't go there. You haven't touched it." First of all, you don't know me. I could have, but I didn't. I have never been to Egypt. As you probably know, I've been to the Sahara Desert. So when I went to the Richat structure, I questioned why there's not a more clear line here, but he was sketching it, so he may not have realized, but you can kind of see a line. As you can see, it's supposed to be equal with its profile, so this is the profile of the Sphinx. This one comes from that first paper I showed you, and here we can see cement fill and headdress. And then it shows cement over here too. That's its claim. It's not saying there's cement fill here. And the cement cover on the back of the neck now. You also see the masonry cover. And you can see the member layers. We've got member 3 on the top. We've got member 2 in the middle. And we've got member 1 at the bottom. And the temple, the Sphinx temple, in front of the Sphinx is created from the blocks pulled out of the bathtub around the Sphinx. You can match the blocks, which member these Sphinx temple blocks have come from. There's the outline of the old temple, and it is interesting because I never really realized what the Sphinx temple was supposed to look like. I just saw all those blocks. Okay, so here's this other one, and you can see clearly the Sphinx has been broken down into this light beige. Now, where's a light beige stone around here? Do you see any of the same color? The neck is a kind of a pink, maybe salmon. Down here, it's a little more salmon, and then it goes back to pink. I don't know why it has the same color, but it's showing that blocks from the amphitheater that was created from quarrying these blocks out of from around the Sphinx and put over here in the Sphinx temple that's right in front of it. That's what we're seeing here. You can see that little line if you don't know what you're looking at. And I've been looking at this for a while, so you only see this corner here. That's the Sphinx temple in front of the Sphinx. And of course, what it's implying here is a lot of blocks have been taken away. The blocks that match the first member are yellow, lots of those. Okay, I showed it once before, but as you can see, this is what they're implying here. That member 1/shoal reef was at the bottom here, and we don't know what's right there because it's covered with masonry. I believe we have a new story here. The fossils, and there's a guide, rock forming, abundant, present, and rare. Again, the head of the Sphinx, you see 0 fossils. So, and that line goes right about here. This is the bed number. So we have beds and we have members. In the first member, we don't get a lot of data because it's way down there. It's covered with masonry from the Romans and probably others. And by the way, they don't just rely on the Sphinx itself. There's also the walls on both sides of the Sphinx. You can't see the member 1 over on the Sphinx side. This is the back of the Sphinx. And this is the wall, I guess. I'm assuming here. But this is the wall to the west of the Sphinx, behind the Sphinx, because this is it says Sphinx, and we know it must be the back. So people walk through here between the Sphinx and the wall. And because we have this wall, we also have coordinating data that can match with the Sphinx. And there's another one that is part of this paper. This is not very clear, but it shows you the connection. Now, this is actually just a picture random. It doesn't really belong in here, but it's showing the difference between Khafre's face and the actual Sphinx. So they seem to have this shape. They say it's not matching. The ears are wrong. Now, this is the picture, and I know that you're going to say, that's it? This is it? Yeah, this is it. The bedrock line goes straight across like this. And, of course, that's that little picture I just showed you where it's behind the Sphinx. But the bedrock with the back of the Sphinx is the same. And it goes down towards the Nile, towards the river, through the city, through Giza, right? And here's the Sphinx temple. I don't know why it's very low here. It seems like it should be a little higher. But what do you really see that's a lot higher than everything else is that head right there. Sphinx head. And it's just pixels now. But when you look at it and you look at it from photographs, the head sticks out over everything because it's a lot higher than anything right here. Was this, in fact, just a block that somebody placed? So when you see this picture that I created, you see the pyramids in the back. Now, honestly, the pyramids are probably much younger than the early stages of the Sphinx. When I started this project, I thought there was one of these yardangs sticking out of the ground there, and somebody thought it looked like a lion. And then they carved it out, maybe. We don't know. I don't believe it was... Sorry, I don't believe it was Anubis. I don't believe it was a dog, because this is a vernal equinox marker. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. And on the vernal equinox, if you cut that in half, 43,200 of them are day, and 43,200 of those seconds are night. What I'm suggesting here is that perhaps the head of the Sphinx was this one granite block that was set there first before the carving started below it. And you can see in these old photos this line here. And when you look at that, it looks like it could be part of that block. This could be the edge or the seam of that block. Let's look at this other picture here. You can see it quite clearly there. It looks a little bit too straight to be true, right? Even though it's not flat, still could have been set there and carved in situ, on site. It could have been carved into that, what I believe was a lion's head, and so does Graham Hancock, because it was to celebrate the vernal equinox, probably during the age of Leo. That would be the sunset behind the lion, and this statue could have been sitting there back when it was all green. I think we're done looking at old photos. I'll look at a couple of new photos real quick. But this is the main point. In the 90s, John Anthony West and Robert Schoch investigated a new idea that much more rainfall had occurred on the Sphinx. And it's like they don't even want to admit it. There's evidence that ancient cultures knew that the precession of the equinox, a 26-year cycle, 26,000-year cycle, the great year, was a phenomenon that's real. Now here, it says it was... I don't know why it took 1970s to figure it out. It was found that the Sphinx points exactly east. Really? It took them till the 1970s to figure that one out? That's like when they say Antarctica was discovered in 1820. Not according to 1,500 maps, but whatever. So, and you can see that's Pisces. So it's the current age we're in now. Why they have the moon next to it, I don't know. But the moon does rise in the east. So what we see here is the Sphinx. Okay, now this is BS too, right? Because this is the back, but the pyramids are... Forget that image. In the 30s, a philosopher noted weathering on the Sphinx. And then later, John Anthony West and Robert Schoch wrote a paper about it. The last significant rainfall that had fallen on Egypt occurred at the end of the Pleistocene era 11,700 years ago. As you can see, we've got a real date here to look at. So I was using ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said that it's a separate piece of stone. I was like, what? You mean this is not a secret? Okay, I wrote the head of the Sphinx was a separate block of limestone. And ChatGPT, which usually tries to shut me down every time I say something about alternative thought, yes, that's correct. It's made of a separate block of limestone from the body. Okay, so I was getting mad. I'm thinking maybe it's giving me false information because I fed it in there. And it says here, the Sphinx was carved from a single massive limestone outcropping, but the head was separately and then attached to the body. Now, this is where it goes wrong. I kind of think that it was there first, like this, and that they said, we love our vernal equinox monument so much that we're going to even take it a step farther and start to carve down into the ground. So I have a feeling that that head came first. It's always stuck up past the sand. It was never buried. I mean, people would walk up and see it. Like here, you can see that the Sphinx was buried. Somebody dug it up a little bit. You have other photos where it's buried up to about here. But that's it. So the head stuck out, but the neck also stuck out. I think that it's a good starting point for what the Atlanteans could have done. Don't forget that when the cataclysm that destroyed Atlantis happened, there were already Atlanteans in Egypt. I mean, if they held sway over Egypt, they had to be there, right? They're not going to like, you Egyptians are our slaves now. You Egyptians are going to do what we say now. We'll be back later. No, they're not going to sit there and split. They're going to stay there. I don't think that we have any controversy here. Apparently, and I just had somebody tell me this, the Egyptian history talks about when the Sphinx was refurbished, and it mentioned that it was set up for the Khafre. If you look at modern day pictures of the Sphinx, you won't see the striation anymore. They've put a support underneath here, right? Little supports, I guess it's like that. There's little bumps all over it now. So they've resurfaced it. They're hiding everything. And the second theory is, yes, this could be the seam right there. Let's zoom in on it, right? The seam here could be a whole separate limestone block that was there for years. And the modern day pictures really show a difference. They're trying to make it look, I think they're just going to throw paint on it. They can't do it because everybody's going to complain. So perhaps they put a piece of limestone right there. They knew that there was a bedrock of limestone below it, or maybe they didn't. But then later on they knew, and they said, let's keep carving. Yeah, they've changed it, and they've ruined it. They're hiding it. They're covering up evidence. It's sick.
This has been an incredible journey, and for anyone listening who's now as hooked on this theory as I am, make sure to check out David Stig Hansen's work. We'll have links in the show notes. Trust me, you'll never look at a map of Africa the same way again. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire some of you to do a little exploring of your own. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep searching for those hidden connections, because you never know where they might lead.
Stop what you're doing and subscribe immediately to David Stig Hansen's YouTube channel at youtube.com/@Stig.